Minutes of the meeting, please.
I move to approve the minutes of the June 8th, 2025 meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next item, item 5, is the budget, fiscal year budget amendment and adoption. Justin,
Morning, everybody.
morning.
How are y'all doing on this fabulous Friday morning? Quick, so we can get out of here, maybe get some breakfast and coffee, huh? All right, so on this morning's agenda, we're gonna do just a quick update on fiscal year 25 incremental values and tax revenues. And we'll look at the fiscal year in 25 projections, and then we'll move into FY 26 values and revenues, look at that proposed budget. And then Kim is going to come up and talk about this past year, this city sponsored plaza event, and then ask all for 2 different motions: 1 to amend 25's budget, 2 to approve fiscal year 26. So with that, for fiscal year 25, from the certified roll from last year to the supplement number 12 that we have today, we did see the assessed value come down by about 5.3 million. We did have 1 or 2 additional homestead and over 65 exemptions come onto the roll, so you're seeing a slight increase there in the exempt property value of 100,000. We have a slightly bigger increase on the Fort Bend County roll here of 164,000, and that's just the difference between the city and the county values for that over 65.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll do my best for you. So looking at those changes to the tax year 2024 tax roll, just kind of look at a comparison here of the main categories on the roll for City of Sugar Land. For example, here we can see that from certification to the current supplement, that on the land value and the home site, we've seen no change. On the non-home sites, specifically the commercials, where we're seeing that $5 million come down.
That's what caused the decrease.
Yes, sir.
Commercial.
So another factor here in the estimated incremental revenues for the year is our assumed tax rates that were to be adopted last year, and then what actually ended up getting adopted. The City of Sugar Land moved forward with that 35.321 cents. The lid number 2 ended up adopting the tax rate slightly lower, and the county ended up also adopting the total tax rate between their general and drainage that was slightly lower. So the combination of the lower values and the lower tax rates, we're looking at roughly a $69,000 decrease in total revenue between all the participating entities in TERS 1. Kind of bringing that together with revenues and expenditures together, we see 62,000 down on the revenues. That's in combination of 69,000 incremental tax value, and then we're seeing a little bit more in interest income on the fund balance going into the year. So on the expenditure side, you can see here, fiscal year 24, we ended up collecting a little bit under what we anticipated for the budget. So from an accounting perspective, you can see that the ending fund balance with the 25 budget anticipates to be negative. But to avoid that, what we're planning for fiscal year end is to reduce on the expenditure side, specifically the SLDC assignment, to make sure that we end the year, at least with a net zero in a positive position. So without taking any questions on fiscal year 25.
Questions?
All right. So on the fiscal year 26 side, on the incremental values, it's a little interesting here because in tax year 24, we saw, excuse me, a pretty significant protest of some of the commercial values, a lot of the properties here in Town Square. So we saw a little bit of a dip, and I'll have a slide here that kind of shows that better. So it looks like we have a pretty substantial increase of 74 million going from tax year 24 to 25. It's really kind of just getting us back to where values were roughly at, actually still slightly lower than tax year 23. On the exemption side, we did have, I believe, 1 homestead exemption fall off of the roll, and then 2 over 65 come off of the roll. So you're seeing total exempted value come down for the 2025 certified roll. This is pretty much mirrored here on the city lid and the county side. Again, the higher exemption pieces, because the county's over 65 is 100,000, I believe ours is 7. So as I was talking about the changes in the assessed value, here we have, well, City of Sugar Land and Fort Bend County for tax year 23, 24, 25. And you can look back at 23 and you can see we're at roughly 277, 279 total assessed value there. And then last year we dipped way down to 185 with the protested property values there. Then this year we're back up to roughly mid 250s. Looking again at specifically the City of Sugar Land tax roll for the same comparison, we can see that the land and home site values remain pretty consistent over those 3 tax years, but it's specifically the non-home site commercial value that was driving that variance. So for fiscal year 26, the assumed tax rate, City of Sugar Land's proposed tax rate is 36,321. The lid, we're assuming that they're going to keep their 11.8 cents there, and Fort Bend County at 42.2 cents. Combining those incremental tax revenues that we're seeing on the rolls and those assumed tax rates, we're looking at roughly 2.26 million in incremental values for the entire fiscal year. Now, of course, as we know, TERS 1's coming to an end here in December 31st. So the plan here is to see what we're going to collect through the end of the quarter, and then come back probably at the last meeting with a budget amendment, similar to like what we do today for fiscal year end, but advancing that up to December to kind of wrap up and close the fund out. So for fiscal year 26 on the proposed expenditures, we have a small amount here, just under $19,000. That's going to cover $2,000 for the property and liability insurance, $130 for the annual audit, and then $16,000 that goes towards the cost allocation overhead for the administrative services provided by city staff. And so what's not in the 26 budget that we're typically used to seeing is roughly about $350,000 that usually goes towards Reeves here to provide those Sugar Land Town Square POA events. 70,000, so sorry, that Reeves here is getting funded out of the SL4B for fiscal year 26. And then we normally have that 70,000 for the city sponsored events. That's coming out of our separate special events fund this year. And then lastly, we typically have about 1.5 or so million that gets assigned to both of our sales tax corporations, both the developer reimbursements and the debt associated with that.
That'll pay off the debt.
Has been repaid, yes, sir. Well, for the additional 400 parking spaces over at the Texas garage and the other infrastructure square initially. With that, I'll ask Kimberly, our Director of Parks and Rec, to give us an overview of the great event we've been on this past year.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I can't believe this is the last time I'm gonna be coming before y'all to talk about our events, but here we are, right? So since 2010, the TERS 1 has been supporting some of Sugar Land's events, the ones that we've put on right here at the plaza. So we're gonna go over those events that we put on in FY25 or will put on in FY25 because we have one in September. And then we'll talk about the FY26 events. So the TERS has been funding the events for $70,000. You'll see here that that's not the total cost of the events. We're also funded by sponsorships as well for these. But we have Christmas tree lighting and Sugar Land Fall Fest. So Christmas tree lighting, this was Christmas tree lighting last December, right? We have about 8,000 to 10,000 people for this event. It's very well attended. It has a lot of holiday themed activities, a lot of stage performances. We've got Santa always there at this event, activity booths, anything that you would expect for that tree lighting. It's a pretty big celebration. And then upcoming, we haven't had this one yet, September the 20th. So in a couple of weeks, we'll have our Fall Fest event. And although it is technically fall, it is still quite warm. But we try to make it feel very fall-like, right? With our pumpkins and everything else out there. We've got activities and the pumpkin patch. We have a hay ride that goes around town square. We've got our main stage with music and entertainment. We've got a local artisans market, so you can get your Christmas shopping started early. So we usually get about 3,000 people there for that event. So you're cordially invited, 10 to 3 on September 20th. Please come out and visit with us there. And then for FY 26, as was mentioned, these events are not being funded by the TERS, are being funded by our special events fund, but we are still able to have them. So this is a save the date for y'all. Christmas tree lighting will be December 5th from 5 to 8, and then Fall Fest will be September 19th of next year, 2026, a whole year from now. So mark your calendars now, come on out and visit with us. So this is our budget, like I said, $70,000 still the budget for those funding out of the special events fund, and then we'll seek additional funding through sponsorships for those events. So no tourist funding for these events. And
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so just kind of wrapping up in a summary here. Again, 2.26 million in incremental revenues for the full tax year. We'll see what we collect prior to the expiration here by end of December. We're looking at anticipating roughly $10,000 on that amount of fund balance. Again, we'll see how that comes in the amount of time we have. I know on the expenditure side, again, that 18,000 just for primarily administrative costs. With those assumed revenues and expenses, we're looking at potentially 2.3 million and fund balance if we were to run. With that, I'll take any further
Questions?
No. All right. With that, we'll open up for the first motion, and that will be to amend the fiscal year 25 budget to the projections.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to amend the budget.
Second? All in favor? Aye.
Okay, and then for the second one would be approving the fiscal year 26 budget.
Okay, do I have a motion on that? There's a motion. Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. It's been a pleasure presenting y'all with this.
If nothing else, we will have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Meeting adjourned. On the meeting,